Today's video, we're going to be having a look at the Eaglemoss Star Trek Starships collection. This is the Starship Enterprise 4 Starship Set. Okay, so here's the contents that you get. You get 4 ships, and depending on the comic book store, I think this may have been consistently across all the comic book stores, but I know when I went and picked this up at my store, not specifically my store, but the comic book store that I got these at, they had said that Eaglemoss had messed up the contents of the packaging. Ultimately, what you were supposed to get the original Enterprise, the NX series. You were supposed to get the NCC 1701, the original Enterprise. You were supposed to get the NCC 1701A, the movie series. And you weren't supposed to get the Enterprise E. It was something that was not supposed to be included in the set. What was supposed to be included was the Enterprise B. So the reason why I'm saying this is if you are looking to pick this set up for yourself, check your local comic book stores, because ultimately what they did with my store, and I don't know, again, this is going to be everywhere, Eaglemoss had shipped the Enterprise B separately, or they included it with the orders that the stores picked up. So ultimately they said, well, if you are selling this set, which is $99.99, anyone who's buying this is going to get the wrong starship inside. You're not supposed to get the E. So include, whenever somebody buys it, include the Enterprise B. So ultimately, instead of getting 4 ships, you get 5 ships by just process of the fact that they messed up the orders. Now again, I don't know if that's going to be across the board for all comic book stores, but if you want to check your stores, just double check that they are selling these. If they are, find out if they did mispack the Enterprise E. If they did, apparently they are instructed to give Enterprise Bs as just like free included pieces with, when you do purchase this. One of the other things that is interesting about this particular set, I just move these ships all kind of out of the way in no real proper sequence. If I bring the box in again, this is just what the box artwork looks like. And then you look also at the top. The top has the original Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Enterprise. The front also mimics that with the ships, in the sense that you've got the Defiant, the Enterprise D, the Voyager ship, Enterprise A, and Enterprise E. I guess the not 100% Enterprise obviously is not listed there, but it is misleading as to what you think is going to be in the box. Granted, it does say 4 Enterprise set, Starship Enterprise 4 set, but from the front you would think, based on this, that Enterprise D would also be included in this box set, and that not again be the case. Just move that to the side. I just want to show you what each of them look like, and then we're going to go ahead and open up all the ships. There's the back side right there, StarTrek.com. It comes with a display stand and also the cradle that's going to support the ship. There's your Enterprise B, your Enterprise NX-01, and again, same box, your regular Enterprise from the Classic series, Enterprise A, which is my favorite of the starships, and Enterprise E. Also comes with the display base and the cradle. Included as well, you get yourself a manual guide, basically a walkthrough guide that shows you the NX-01, NCC 1701, NCC 1701A, and NCC 1701B. So right there you can see that they mispacked it. The manual, or the catalog that comes included, does represent at least the correct ships. So if you looked at this should have been the image that was on the front of the box. Because if anybody was not asking about that set and just bought it simply face value for what the box image looks like, I would think based on that box, I'm getting a Defiant, an Enterprise D, a Voyager, an Enterprise A, and an Enterprise E. They probably should have made it box look closer to this. We will flip through this, and it shows the different contents. And I like that they give a very thorough breakdown as to each of the ships. So you've got the original Enterprise NX-01. I say original by timeline only. Some specific elements to the ships themselves. Of course, Captain Archer down below. First flight, a tribute to a classic moment. I love this. I love where it gives you the top, the back, and the front. Original sketch designs for what the ship was going to look like. This is very much like NCC 1701 right there. And then you've got some screen appearances. Then you've got the NCC 1701. My favorite, the NCC 1701A. I would love just a catalog, just a book based on this solely. Original concept designs for the Enterprise, the retrofit Enterprise. NCC 1701 refit. And the NCC 1701A. We continue to flip through the NCC 1701B, one of my least favorite designed ships, the Excelsior class ships. Not quite the, I don't think it's the Excelsior class, but obviously I think of it as the Excelsior when I look at that ship. And schematics, underside, top, side view, front view, back view, and designing the Enterprise B. Also an advertisement on the back for more Eaglemoss ships. I would love to continue to collect these. I think they really look nice. Super detailed, of course, as you will see when we get these all opened up. So let's go ahead and get these ships all here opened up. So here's what the ships look like once you get them out of packaging and you've got them on their included display stands. Ships look actually really nice here. Some I think look a little bit better than others, but I think for the most part they actually look quite good. Some of them also have metal components, while the rest of the ship is plastic. The ships themselves, we'll take NX-01 off the stand, comes all with the same oval-shaped display base, and in this instance you've got a felt bottom and a little placard sticker that says the ship. So this one here is the Enterprise NX-01. There's a clamp on it, but I find that the clamp doesn't sit strong enough. When it plugs into place, I wish it actually would have stayed in place. It's not so bad when you've got the actual clamp on its own, but when you incorporate the ship, the weight of the additional ship's hull, I find this just doesn't stay in place well enough. But I do like the fact that it's clear, so it gives you the sense that the ship is, somewhat floating. The clamp, or the neck itself, as you can see, has two prongs, and the prongs fit just in between here and clamps to the bottom. You get a much better gripping on the underside because it's got a longer strut to it than the top, and it does do a pretty good job of holding the ship. It's, of the 5 ships, the NX-01 has the least amount of grip, or the least amount of the what's holding the ship together. Most of these are attaching themselves to the saucer section. This one here is barely holding on to like the back thruster section. So we'll go ahead and take this off its stand. I may even just, I don't want to, any Eaglemoss collector of these ships will probably just shake their head, but I probably might find myself gluing these, just gluing them in place so they don't go anywhere. So there's the base. Now let's have a look at the NX-01. I honestly didn't watch Enterprise to its full extent. I think it's one of the few Star Trek shows, just thinking about it now, it is the only Star Trek show I didn't watch in all of its entirety. I did watch the final few episodes as the series wrapped itself up, but I did not watch the show in its entirety. It's a good looking ship though, as an old vintage design goes for the Enterprise. Not only does it look futuristic by today's standards, but it still keeps elements in place from the NCC 1701. Here on the top, you've got the NX-01 Enterprise marked on the top there. And you've got the bridge section on the front. You've got a couple of cargo bay doors there on the sides. I mean, it's a much bigger saucer section, but then if you would compare it to... What's so funny about this is if you did it by scale, a lot of these ships are way off on proportion. The Enterprise D being the biggest the biggest example of that, because it's the largest of the ships, and yet it's the smallest of the replicas here. So again, like, you've got some really nice design elements here. The ship is primarily more of a darker gray, borderlining silver, but it's got some really nice elements to it. The impulse engines on the back have been painted in blue, so they have not left those out. And the warp nacelles are on the back here. You've got slightly translucent red, although it doesn't really show all that well. It just actually comes across a little bit more of a darker red. Nice detailing there on the individual windows. And it's got that tempographing sort of texturing where the paint job, I'm not sure the actual term for it. I think it's called tempographing, where you've got like the more pixelized sort of printing that makes up the top section of the ship, as well as the underside. And NX-01 also featured on the sides there. It's not one of my favorite ships by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that even though I didn't really watch the show enough to, like I said, its full entirety, I have to admit that the NX-01 does have neat design elements to it. I wish the ship sat a little bit better in its cradle, but granted, there's not really a lot of spaces where it could have attached itself. I guess theoretically it could have attached itself to the sides of the saucer section, but I wish that the neck itself was a little bit more fitted, or at the very least that the neck stayed a little bit more into the base. Moving on to a show that I watched in its entirety, the original classic Star Trek series. And the NCC 1701 in its classic design looks really good here, actually, as an Eaglemoss replica. Now, this particular one, as you can see, clamps itself to the back areas of the saucer section. And you basically just drop the ship down in this section in front of the thrusters. And it just attaches itself to the saucer section here. So we'll go ahead and take that off on the underside. Again, you've got the felt bottom. USS Enterprise NCC 1701. Now here is an instance where I didn't really talk too much about it with the NX-01. It does feel like it's primarily plastic. Here you feel a definite increase in weight, as it looks like the saucer section has been done in metal. You got USS Enterprise NCC 1701, and you've got the bridge at the top there. Slightly greenish tinge to the Enterprise here, as well as the inclusion of the additional point here on the front of the main deflector. Everything on here is meticulously cared for. The individual windows you can see on the sides. And on the back, you've got the impulse engines right behind on the back of the ship there. One of my all-time favorite Enterprises. Again, my favorite of all time is the NCC 1701, but I do really think this one came out quite nice. I love the fact that this is metal, though. The main under area, the undercarriage here of the ship is plastic, as well as the backs are plastic here as well. But I do like the fact that this is at the very least metal. And we'll go ahead and attach that one back to its neck here, the adjustable, it's not adjustable, but it looks good. I wish it didn't have all this extra here. I mean, they could have maybe pegged it the same way that Diamond Select pegs theirs, with a little hole plugging that into place, but this much more stable. There's the NX, or I should say the NCC 1701. Then we come to my all-time favorite ship. This is the NCC 1701 as featured in the Star Trek films. Of course, from Star Trek 3, I guess the end of Star Trek 3 onward until the Undiscovered Country. Here we have the same felt bottom, same oval-shaped black base. Here we have the USS Enterprise NCC 1701A, and you've got the neck attached to that as well. This one attaches pretty much the exact same way as the NCC 1701, and it just fits into place like that. If you move this ship out of the way, and you look at the neck itself, you can see how it's got a little bit of a bow shape happening here, which cradles actually rather nicely the main bottom area of the ship. Bit of an eyesore, yes. The clear plastic is very noticeable, but at the very least, it's holding the ship well. I still have problems though. The neck just does not stay well enough in place to the base. Obviously, if you're having it on a desk, it's going to be a different story altogether. Let's go ahead and take the NCC 1701A out of its cradle. Looking very nice here. They've opted for keeping, I guess, the warp nacelles black rather than blue. And the front, the main deflector. One thing I would have done, instead of giving it, well, the interior, if I show you here, is a translucent blue plastic. If you look deep into it, though, you can see a almost black dot behind the actual deflector dish. I think I would have actually gone in and painted behind that white so that it would have actually looked more like it was lit up like it does in the movie. Instead, it does bear a little bit of a lifeless presentation, unfortunately. That's about the only thing I would have changed differently to the NCC 1701A here. The saucer section, once again, feels like it doesn't feel as heavy as the NCC 1701, but it does feel like it could perhaps be... See, it does feel like it's plastic, though, making me wonder if the whole thing here is plastic, whereas the one we just looked at had a metal saucer section here. You've got USS Enterprise NCC 1701-A, which is also featured on the back there. Get a close look at the shuttle bay there. And the impulse engines painted in red. Still my favorite of the Star Trek ships, of the Enterprise ships. And we'll just slide that one back into its struts. And we'll put this one down. Moving on to the Enterprise B. My least favorite of the Enterprise ships. And we just slide this one out. There we go. And here's what the base looks like. A lot more hair on this one. USS Enterprise NCC 1701B. By the way, all the necks are not swappable. You wouldn't really have the proper gripping if you would use the clamps on these ones to hold other ships. So they are specific to one another. Go ahead and take this one off. Just looking at the Enterprise B saucer section, it doesn't feel like it's plastic. It's hard to say because it's thinner. This obviously feels metal. This it felt like it was plastic. I want to say this one here is also plastic, which is really a shame that I wish they added. And yet, you know what? The weight of it feels like the front is heavier. Maybe it is actually metal, the saucer sections here. But what could be really said for the Enterprise B or the Excelsior ship? I'm not a big fan. Just not a really big fan of the very elongated bottom and elongated nacelles of the Enterprise B. At the very least, they painted or they used blue plastic. Just move that hair out of the way. Blue plastic for the warp nacelles. Looks like it's translucent blue plastic, so at least that's nice. And you've got that imprinting, that digital tempograph that's been added to the main body, the main and bottom section of the ship, as well as the saucer section. And you've got your warp impulse engines on the back there. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of this particular ship. I think I would have swapped out, for the fact that this is the Enterprise collection, I think I would have swapped out, I would have kept an X01, 01A. I probably would have swapped B out for D, and then I would have thrown E in there. Although that's, obviously that's 5 ships, when this is supposed to be a 4-ship set. The last ship that we'll look at is the ship that really isn't supposed to be part of this set, and that's the Enterprise E. You can see how it clamps itself just to the saucer section once again. We'll remove that off. And you've got the USS Enterprise NCC 1701E. Put the stand right over there. What to be said for the Enterprise E? Well, I like the design in the movies, but I've never thought that the ship translated well when it came to a replica. It generally looks very pale, and I feel like it always comes across too small. I mean, the ship is many times bigger than the other ships that we looked at, yet ultimately, just to keep it in proportion so that, you know, all these ships have to stay relatively around the same size. And yet if you compare it to the NX-01, which the Enterprise E would tower size-wise to the NX-01, the Enterprise E is much smaller in comparison. So I never really thought that the ship was best handled when it came to replicas. Diamond Select did a pretty good job, pretty bang-up job, actually, when it came to their replica Enterprise E. But still, at the very least, it's a ship that doesn't, I think, translate well when you get a replica of it. It always kind of feels like it's shortchanged. Here they've used, once again, the translucent blue plastic, the warp nacelles, and you've got the... Now, this is one of the more disappointing deflector dishes on the front here. It's just this small little translucent orange plastic. This little small circular plastic. It really could have done something, they could have done something extra to that. But really none of the deflector dishes actually, in all honesty, look all that great on these particular ships. Here you see very high levels of intricate little details added to the Enterprise E. And you've got Enterprise NCC 1701E, the multiple different windows and escape pods all around the outer perimeter of the saucer section. You've got the warp thrusters on the back there, impulse engines. They've even gone ahead and, something I didn't mention with any of these ships, they went in and panel lined. So for example, the shuttle bay, panel lined that. It's got some really cool elements of different colors here, but ultimately, like, all the colors just kind of come together. The grays, the darker grays, and the beiges, ultimately from a distance, kind of just read as a very light looking gray. Again, it's a nice looking ship. I don't know if I would dare say I like it more than the Enterprise D. I think I like Enterprise D more than the Enterprise E myself, but I just don't think it's ever been given a proper treatment. I think when it comes to a replica of this one should be big, it should be large, it should have really cool, like, light up options and stuff like that. It just never translates well to a ship. But for an Eaglemoss release of this, I'd have to say it's one of the more disappointing of the ships just because of its size. Again, the clear neck pops off the base. The little clamps here don't stay all that well. And once again, if you want to just display it, fits against those clamps. Might be a good idea to hold the base and the neck as you put it down on a surface, and then just kind of readjust the ship from there. So there are your 5. Technically, it should have been, yes, 4, but your 5 ships that make up the Eaglemoss Starship Enterprise 4 set. All the ships are nicely done in this box set, although the price points could maybe throw people off a little bit, because $100, you're only really getting 4 ships, so that works out to be about a $25 price point each. It does, however, give you an option to get all the ships in one go, because normally with the Eaglemoss releases, you have to wait every single month to get a ship come in the mail, and it comes along with its own designated magazine. A lot of these ships have already been circulated by Eaglemoss, so ultimately, if you want to be picking these up for yourself, you generally have to start looking in aftermarket areas such as eBay if you want to get each of the individual ships, and some of them can be a little bit more expensive than others. I do think the ships turned out, again, quite nicely. Some of them, I think, look a little bit better, like they put a little bit more time and effort into some versus the others. The NCC 1701 and NCC 1701A are my personal favorites from this set, but I think all of them do quite well for looking like the ships that they did. Even if I don't even like the Enterprise A, I think that Eaglemoss did a good job on recreating the ship in a smaller form. Again, if you guys are interested in picking this set up for yourself, I would honestly say check your local comic book stores, and also check with the sellers, the people that run the store as well, just to make sure that if Eaglemoss had screwed up their shipments as well, that would also mean you'll get yourself a 5th ship. You'll get the Enterprise E or the Enterprise B included, because the E was packaged incorrectly. So double check that if you are looking to pick up the set for yourself. Like I said, the set's going to cost you $99.99 here. At least that's what it was the case here in Canada. But a good all-around set. If you guys are looking to collect the Eaglemoss starships, this kind of gets a lot of them done and out of the way right away. Saves you having to go back and buy these individually. Today we were having a look at the Eaglemoss. This was the Star Trek Starship Enterprise 4 set, even though technically it was 5. If you guys haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below yet, make sure you do so. Of course, more videos will be coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.